So some of my peers would say, yeah, that's just all window dressing, that collaboration thing. It does not real, or it's just things you say so that you know, you'll do what you want to do anyway. So what would you say back to them? I would say for myself, everybody else knows, I don't find that to be true. I find the work that I've been involved with on multiple levels, both with yourself and other people, that as the stakeholders, whoever they may be, contribute to the conversation, change is made, alteration happens. But nonetheless, I mean, just very recently had somebody tell me that very thing. So is there a statement back you would say to someone who would just say, I think that's just all window dressing, I don't think you're really serious about collaboration?
I'd say come and see. Most of the time when I hear that concern, and it's, you know, I understand that concern, and I certainly have experienced it from the other end in organizations as well. But I'm not hearing it from people who've been involved in the work. And if I was, I'd be really worried that our, you know, our conversation and our actions were not the same. But we're not going to fail sometimes. We're not going to collaborate well at times. We're going to skip a step. We're going to fail to listen to somebody we should have heard. Nobody's perfect. So I'd say come and see, get involved. Right. If you're involved and you still feel that way, if you're really contributing and you don't feel like you're being heard, I want to hear that. If you're not involved and you just feel like, well, those things are, as a general skeptic, are never real, then I'd say come get involved. Find out for yourself.
I feel like that kind of plays to definitions, which is kind of a personal interest of mine. When people use words, then it's like, let's define that. A word I think that would be helpful if we heard at least your take on it is this idea of representation. Because we all are very large. So there's 500 plus faculty just alone for them, not counting everybody else who's a part of an employee group. So we ask for a work team, and we might need 2 or 3 people. So I'm going to be represented by these 2 or 3 people in this group, in this work team, and doing the collaborative work. When you ask or have you know the team is asking for representation, what do you think that means to yourself? What do you think, what should it mean for us, not just us, the faculty, but anybody at Valencia when they're contributing? Sometimes we have career staff stepping in to represent their employee class. What are you hoping they do? What are you hoping they don't do? Are there any thoughts about representation you could share with us?
Well, it is a loaded word, and I don't use it very often. I don't think of our work as representative work.
Okay.
That tends to suggest to me more the sort of voting behaviors of governmental organizations and so on. And what I found is that the larger, more complex your work gets, the more alienated people feel from all that process. And I think we're at a low ebb of trust in representative government right now, maybe, just because of our national culture.
Yeah.
So, you know, I understand skepticism about that. To me, the engagement is still the better word than representation.
Okay.
I can't do everything, but I can be engaged enough to know what's going on and to know who's doing it and to know if I have a concern, who to go talk to. So one of the things we've put into this governance process is project tracking tools so that people can follow the big decisions in the college and say, I care about that, but I can't be there. I can still follow the dialogue, and I can interact with the people who are there, who understand my point of view, other faculty, other staff, whoever that might be. The core of this is that a culture of advocacy, I represent a group or a special interest, is what actually paralyzes us. A culture of inquiry that requires a certain amount of trust, but also pretty high standards of argumentation and evidence. A culture of inquiry moves you forward. It takes you someplace instead of paralyzing you. So, you know, anybody that feels like this is a conversation I need to connect to, I want them to connect, but I want them to connect with the spirit of inquiry that says, tell me more about what you're doing. Right. Why are you thinking this way? Let me show you another way of thinking about it. What do you think of my way? Rather than, I'm here to represent an interest group, and I'm going to beat you over the head with my interests, and you're going to beat me over the head with your interests, and neither one of us is going to go home happy. Right.
And at the end of the day, the work team still has to produce a product that if I'm not on that work team, need to have some level of trust that the people at the team, at the table, did their work and that we're doing the best we can. And that was one of the things I know came up at the last summer's governance retreat, was kind of a definition for shared governance, but a part of that at least was that we're good people trying to do, we, meaning everybody who works at Valencia, good people trying to do the work, and I've got to learn to
Yeah,
trust
I
that.
think we have a pretty high trust environment in that regard. You know, people are generally distrustful of institutions, and large-scale institutions especially. And, you know, Dilbert's not the most popular comic strip in the world for nothing, and we all get that. But they also tend to make exceptions for their own experience. So,
Sure.
you know, big organizations, big turnoff, but mine's pretty good. Or big organization, big turnoff, but in my department it's okay. Or, you know, whatever it might be. I would just say that we have an extraordinary experience here. I visit 50, 60 colleges a year, speaker, consultant, whatever, conference. And what we have is pretty special, and it's worth stewarding. The level of trust, the level of mutuality and dialogue is at a pretty high level here, and we ought to treasure it and work to keep it that way.